Hi y'all. I like this filter, but we're back with another video. Just wanted to check in and say hey to everyone. Shabbat Shalom. It's Sabbath. I hope everyone had a great week. I hope that everyone was productive during this week. And I'm just contemplating on some literature that I've always had it, and I didn't realize that I missed something. So I'm here to explore what I missed with you all in light work, though I don't want to go too deep. So this is the Yanni show. And I titled this vlog Step 4. We made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves out of the Good Old Recovery Handbook. The reason why I've been contemplating on this is because I went to a meeting where we were talking about step 4, and I was like, wow, I talk about step 8, 9, and 10, I believe, in the in dating with a diagnosis, and I didn't recognize step 4 is one of the key points that need to be made as far as dating with a diagnosis, which is building healthy relationships around you, but first getting to know yourself. First understanding yourself separate from your illness, and also understanding yourself, understanding your symptoms of your diagnosis as well. This could be a diagnosis of substance abuse disorder or substance use disorder. This could be bipolar, depression, or both, which is called dual diagnosis, when you have an addiction disorder co-current with a mental health disorder. So that's what dual diagnosis is. I don't want to go too deep in reading the literature, because this might be writing rainbow, but it damn sure ain't reading rainbow. And I like to read it, and I read it with my peers and stuff like that already, out of a different book, but the same step. This is my book I have at home. Had it for years. Pretty cool. I'm glad. Step 4 is we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. The purpose of searching and fearless moral inventory is to sort through the confusion and the contradiction of our lives so that we can find out who we really are. We are starting a new way of life and need to be rid of the burdens and traps that controlled us and prevented our growth. Another part of that I wanted to read was, when we were not honest with ourselves. We are becoming honest with ourselves when we admit that addiction has defeated us and that we need help. It took a long time to admit that we were beaten. We found that we do not recover physically, mentally, or spiritually overnight. Step 4 will help us toward our recovery. Another part I wanted to read. We must be done with the past, not cling to it. We want to look our past in the face, see it for what it really was, and release it so we can live today. That's the key point I wanted to make. The past, for most of us, has been a ghost in the closet. We have been afraid to open that closet for fear of what that ghost may do to us. We do not have to look at the past alone. Our wills and our lives are now in the hands of our higher power. Writing a thorough and honest inventory seemed impossible. It was as long as we were operating under our own power. It was as long as we were operating under our own power. We take a few quiet moments before writing. Ask for the strength to be fearless and thorough. In step 4, we begin to get in touch with ourselves. We write about our liabilities such as guilt, shame, remorse, self-pity, resentment, anger, depression, frustration, confusion, loneliness, anxiety, betrayal, hopelessness, failure, fear, and denial. We write about the things that bother us here and now. We have a tendency to think negatively, so putting it on paper gives us a chance to look more positively at what is happening. Okay, so I wanted to share that. Let me make sure I'm not missing one. An inventory becomes a relief because the pain of doing it is less than the pain of not doing it. We learn that pain can be a motivating factor in recovery, thus facing it becomes unavoidable. Every topic of step meeting seems to be the fourth step or doing a daily inventory. Through the inventory process, we are able to deal with all the things that can build up. The more we live our program, the more God seems to put us in positions where issues surface. Okay, so for me, welcome viewer. For me, I had to understand that holding myself accountable for my past, not using it as an excuse, not using my trauma as an excuse, not using my diagnosis as an excuse to prevent me from moving forward in my life. The reason why I thought about this was because I was discussing with someone about how some things just don't go away for certain people, like post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. A person can be in recovery in mental health because they're actively working on their issues and their character defects. They're actively trying to grow into a better person and not blame everyone else for their problems. When people who are undiagnosed or diagnosed and untreated or are unaware of what the impact of a mental health diagnosis or problem or behaviors could do, they're not aware of these things. So they spend a lot of time blaming the assailant. They spend a lot of time blaming others for being abused. And not that, if I'm not victim blaming, I don't mean like, oh, when I was abused, it's their fault that I messed up because I was abused. But the thing is you have to hold yourself accountable moving forward. Yeah, you were abused. Yeah, you were attacked. Yes, you were traumatized, but that may not be your fault. But what you are responsible for, what we are responsible for, we're responsible for how we continue to live our lives and respond to daily life, how we show up and decide to do our work and do our duty in the world. Hello, viewer. So for me, I get this a lot with people. They don't understand. And some people just, it's not that they don't care. They just may not understand. They may care a lot and not understand, or they understand and don't care. But we have to understand that living with being in recovery from addiction, or being in recovery for our behavioral issues, or being in recovery for our mental health diagnosis, that healing takes time and healing hurts. There's no magic cure for trauma. This is why there's a diagnosis. There's a difference between someone who been through things and can get over it and forget about it. Even that's PTSD too. In Dianetics, they show you how you can have regressed memories, and the response, you can still have a trauma response, but you do not remember where the trauma was. Okay, so the reason why I say this is a diagnosis. It's a clinical diagnosis, PTSD I'm talking about, because we live it every moment of our life. We can move forward, have a great future, have a great present, accomplish many things, go on to be successful. Some don't. because some people don't recover, or some people do not actively work on their recovery, or they will get some support, see a therapist, take medications for a while, or, go to support groups. But what happens is once they start to feel better, they feel like, oh, I'm cured, I'm healed. I don't have to take medication anymore. I don't have to see therapists anymore. Welcome, viewer. I don't have to, I can just go on living my normal life. And for most people, when that happens, there's a sense, for lack of a better word, there's a relapse where they have to go back into treatment and taking medications and things like that. It's a repeating cycle. Welcome, viewer. So what I can say about PTSD being a diagnosis, there are people who have a seasonal depression or grievance. You may lose someone close to you, and you might become depressed and have to grieve through that. And then that could just be a lapse in moment. You may not become diagnosed. Like, everyone gets sad, everyone feels pain, everyone goes through some type of traumatic experience in life. Hell, being born is a traumatic experience. Think about how traumatic that is, to come from being inside of a comfortable space, and then all of a sudden there's, thank you for the hearts, and all of us, you're inside your mother's womb, safe and sound, and then you're pushed and kicked out on your birthday into some facility with eyes peering at you and hands touching and grabbing you, and it's cold and you're wet and they're trying to dry you off. Being born is a traumatic experience in itself. So everyone has dealt with some type of trauma. 9/11, a lot of people were affected by that, and they were traumatized by that. And a lot of people suffer from PTSD. COVID happened. A lot of people are dealing with PTSD from dealing with COVID, because they were in fear of losing people, in fear of losing people, fear for their own health and their own safety too. So some things we go through, and people would like to deny, that they may not have issue, or they may be traumatized. But I say that to say this. We made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. It's important to understand what we can do to move forward, be stronger, be better, and get the support that we desire, whatever that may look like. Support looks different for each individual. What may help you may not help me. The way I practice my recovery, like I practice taking my medication, I practice going to therapy, I practice going to support groups, being around like-minded individuals who are survivor traumas, who understand that this is not using this as an excuse, but something that we have to continue to grow through. This is why it's a clinical diagnosis versus somebody who just gets stressed out because of work, or somebody who just gets stressed out because of a grievance that happens, or something like that. This is completely different. It is a clinical thing. It's something we have to live through and face every day. PTSD is. It's not something we necessarily get over. Now, people are either going to understand or they're not. And that's okay. It's not up to you to make them understand. That's up to a source that's greater than ourselves. I don't want to get too preachy or spiritual, but for me, I'm noticing, this is why this is a dating with a diagnosis conflict. Like, it's hard for me to keep friends, or it's hard for me to build with people because of the trauma that I have. They're afraid that I am not able to function on a certain level, or a certain caliber of level, because of the trauma that I've been through, and how I have to relive these things over and over again. I may not bring it up. Or maybe not to specific people, but I have to cope with it, and I have to live in this reality where I forgive my past. I've moved on from my past. I am even in recovery from my past. Not just what people did to me, but also what I did to myself or what I did to other people when I was in a hurt place. Welcome, viewer. So, I love that ringtone. So, I say that to say this, I want to foster better relationships around me, but I don't understand how to hide or bury what I've been through. I don't know how to hide or sugarcoat, brush under the rug traumatic experiences that I'm reliving in every moment of my journey. I don't have to you don't have to share this with a person said, "Hey, I'm having an anxiety attack right now, or I'm panicking or depressed." You may not have to share that with them if you don't want to, or if they're not going to understand, or if they're not a valued person. But one thing I can say is you have to face that with yourself. And, I have somebody who wishes, hello, viewer. I had somebody that wished that they could be here, be there for me, and fix things. These are not things you can fix. We cannot fix the past. We cannot always heal the hurt. And another thing is, healing does hurt. But we need to commend people who can identify their trauma, who can understand how they are responding in a trauma, who can understand how to work through it to make themselves a better person, grow from it, maybe help someone else get through things like that. And also understand that this is part of your journey. These are things that can, sometimes I feel like my past traumas protect me from a lot of things. They protect me from a lot of things because if I see a certain pattern of something that was traumatizing to me that I went through in the past, I don't continue. Like, if, say for example, my friends want me to go to a party and we don't have adequate transportation. No one's talking about details, how much money we need to bring. Nobody's talking about what we're going to wear. What is the weather like? These are things that, because I've been through some things, experiences. It may not be a trauma. It may be experiences. I went to a party in high school one time in the middle of a snow blizzard, and we had no transportation back home, and we lived 5 towns over. So in that experience, I know I ain't going to no party or no event if I ain't got adequate transportation, money for parking, if I'm not wearing a winter coat and I don't know the weather. All the details have to be in place. That's not their fault. That's not, I mean, as far as like moving forward, if one of my friends, like, you ask a lot of questions, just want to hang out and go do what? Go do something where? With who? How much money do I need to bring? Are we going to be indoors? Are we going to be outdoors? Are we going to be dressed up? Are we going in sweats? These things matter to me because of things that I've been through. You ever show up to a party, somebody said they just want to go out and get a cup of coffee, and so you're in some sweats and maybe a sweatshirt, and and your friend is dressed up into a certain way. You're thinking, oh, maybe they're just dressed for the day. And then they take you to a party where all these people are dressed up and you're sitting there in sweats. So it's like, for me, I have to know these things when I make plans and when I try to get in, participate in certain activities, not just as trauma, but even just in when we have experiences. You know what I mean? Like, even people who drive a certain way because they've been in several accidents. So now, instead of turning right on red, they might sit at the red light and just sit at the red light for a right on red. In some states, we can turn right on red for my people who don't live in Mass. But, so don't do that shit in California. But they will pull you over. But yeah. So an important part of dating with a diagnosis is understanding these things about yourself. And other people are gonna look at it like it's like it's excuses. Some people are not gonna understand that this is something that you're growing through. Some people are not gonna understand and give you the support you need to, accompany you on this journey of getting better. But there's nothing that they can do about it if you have a clinical diagnosis. This is not something that we just have to brush off. These are things that this is what we have to live through every day. Some people say, "Oh my goodness, how do you do that? Worry about everything and things like that." I'm like, you think that is something that you're viewing and you're experiencing with me, but imagine living in that experience 24/7 and you don't have no way of not reliving these traumas over and over again. It's really annoying and it's really stressful, and it's really annoying and it's really stressful. But the good side is, for me personally, I wouldn't mind being my friend because I'm not just going to lash out on you and be rude to you and blame bipolar. You know why? Because I'm in recovery and I'm aware that I have, mood swings or hormonal imbalance. And I recognize that I can't just use that as an excuse to be rude to people and treat them any type of way. You have these other people out here running around traumatized and don't even know why they're traumatized, don't even sit down and take personal morale inventory, and they don't want to work on their issues. So if you don't want to be my friend because I have trauma, or if you don't want to be my friend because I have anxiety, that's fine. But everybody has these experiences in life that make them move a certain way or make decisions a certain way. But not everybody is acknowledging they can't that you can't do, welcome viewer, that you can't hold this against other people around you in society. It's just not fair. They want to go be friends with somebody who's traumatized and has anxiety and depression and bipolar, who's not working with their issues. Go deal with that, because I'm not going to be sitting here, you know feeling sorry for myself or looking for you to feel sorry for me just to be my friend. Because, and I'm saying this not at any particular people, but I'm saying this because it needs to be said. And I've noticed that with trying to meet new people, it's very discouraging to want to meet new people, and for me to not want to just isolate and shut the world out because people don't understand that this is just how I am, and I could tell you why. And if you don't want to know why, I don't have to tell you why, but this is just how I am. And I'm happy for myself. I love myself. I think it's great that I learn things about myself every day. I think that it's great that I have friends around me that do understand and who work on themselves. I don't want to be friends with somebody who is toxic and full of resentment and trauma and are not planning on working through their issues. They want to brush everything under the rug. They don't want to face the demons. They don't want to open that closet door, as the literature said. And I wanted to share this with you all because that's part of step 4 is an important way to you important tool to use in dating with a diagnosis when it comes to looking at ourselves separate from our illness, using human language to express what we may be going through, and to receive support or build healthy relationships around us. And I'll tell you guys this all the time. I tell you guys this all the time. If a person cannot respect or don't want to understand or don't care that you have a history and a past, and that, but you have to actually be working on this for this to matter. You don't want to be hiding yourself. You don't want to be brushing things under the rug. You don't want to be going through this alone with someone that could be your friend, or with somebody that could be your spouse, or with somebody that should be a close family member to you. You shouldn't have to hide who you are to be great. You shouldn't have to hide who you are to become, so that you can become well. Some people don't want to get well and face their issues and hold themselves accountable and take moral inventory of themselves because they're afraid of what others will think. This job might not hire me if I tell them I struggle with depression. This person may not want to be my friend if I tell them I hear voices. This person may not want to date me if I tell them I have OCD. Now, if you decide not to date or have relationships with your family or have relationships with others because of your traumas and because of what you were working on with yourself and trying to heal with yourself, that's your business, and that's okay too. That is perfectly fine. You don't have to subjugate yourself to dealing with people not understanding you or being afraid, or like you don't have to subject yourself to, oh, welcome viewer, oh, I want to work on myself and I want to heal myself before I get into another relationship, or or before I make a good friend, or things like that. You don't have to do that. You could just work on yourself by yourself. But I tell you one thing, through my experience, I worked on part of my issues by myself. But there was a part where I had to learn how to practice human sociable behaviors and initiations. I had to learn how to make new friends and trust again that, there are still good people out there. There are good people out there still because I'm a good person. Everybody's not the same because I'm different. And welcome viewer, and we have to understand that. Everybody's not the same. Everybody's not out to get you all the time. You can't trust everyone, but there are certain people that you can decide to trust and build trust with. And I think it's very important that we look at ourselves first. Because I got tired. I'm like, wait a minute. If I keep going through the same pattern, I tell you guys this all the time. I keep going through the same pattern in relationships with people and friends. Welcome, Uncle Raymond. If I keep going through the same patterns and not dealing with obviously something's not right with me. And it doesn't have to be something wrong, but something's off. Because I keep running into the same people, keep ending up in the same situations, keep living the same patterns. And that's something that I have to work on with myself. Because the world is just a reflection of me. I'm projecting a shadow of myself, of things that I need to work on. So every relationship, every friendship I make, everything I learn in social experiences are learning experiences for me to grow into a better person. That's why people come into your life for a season and a reason. It's not a season or a reason. It's always a reason. Whether they're there for a season or for the century, they're always in your life for a reason. Most of the time it's for them to teach you something about the universe, wants to teach you something about yourself. And you have to be open to that. Welcome, viewer. You have to be open to learning. You have to be open to saying you are wrong, saying that you're sorry, pardoning yourself, apologizing for where you may have affected somebody or even inflicted yourself. It may not be intentional to hurt people. Like, you may be a hurt person who don't intentionally mean to hurt people or offend people. You might not mean to do that, but you do. because you're not working on yourself. So you're going to keep saying sorry and sorry and sorry and doing the same thing over and over and over again until you learn. Some people don't learn. Some people are fixing their ways. They think, well, I'm 18 now. I know everything that I need to know. I don't want to learn no more because I learned everything already. Or you could be 30. I know everything and I'm always right. And what I think is going to happen always happens. So I'm psychic. You could be 50 years old, can't teach an old dog new tricks. I don't want to learn nothing. People who are younger than me don't know nothing. And, they don't want to learn. And you could, I'm telling you, there's all sorts of people in the world. But not everybody's the same. Not everybody's problems are the same. You may think because I have anxiety and your ex-boyfriend had anxiety that me and him have the same issues or respond to anxiety in the same way, and no, we don't. Everybody's diagnoses or health conditions are unique to them. That's why in the medical field, one thing I do despise is that stigma that they treat the illness. They don't treat the individual. And you should be treating the individual, because if I have MS, my experience with MS is going to be completely different than to the person, another person that has MS. So that's all I really have to say about that right now. I just wanted to share with you all something that dawned on me. I hope you're having a good Sabbath. I want everybody to be safe. It's Saturday night. To all my friends that like to run the streets and party, I hope y'all be safe tonight. Have a good weekend, and I'll talk to y'all soon. You're loved. Ciao.